Today on Your Life A to Z, we're getting crazy early, getting into the Halloween spirit. It's a Halloween costume show for you grown-ups. It's also Tuesday, and that means it's makeover time. A very special woman with an incredible story to share. Also, are you a hypochondriac? The doctor is in the house. You know, my back's been a little sore. We'll offer some expert advice for you and teaching gifted children if you're the parent of a gifted child. And how do you figure out what's what? You'll want to stay tuned. That and so much more as we mix it up and get crazy. Your Life A to Z. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Your Life A to Z. I am your host, Heidi Fogelsong, and if you could see what's going on in our studio, I mean, we've got a real behind-the-scenes look. We have got incredible characters, and they're floating around this whole building, you know, all gearing up for Halloween. Anyway, on top of that, we have a doctor. Yes, he plays one on TV, and he's actually a real doctor. My co-host today is a guy that can truly do it all, Mr. Dr. John Shufeldt, and you're my co-host today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I love it.
I tell you, you've had fingers, eyeballs, you've done emergency kits. You are quite the accomplished man.
And what's not to put in your emergency kit, don't forget that.
Oh, I know. But we love the bullets and the Jack Daniels. But that's another story. Now here is what people don't know about you. Dr. John Shufeldt is a doctor of ER. That's the emergency room. You know, we've all said you kind of look like George Clooney. You know, you're our ER George Clooney doctor dude.
Before the makeover.
Right, but Robert's over there. So, oh, honey, he can gel out your hair, do the big old thing, you know, in the doctor's coat and all that good stuff.
Perfect.
Okay. Anyway, believe it or not, this guy is on his way to becoming a lawyer. And I have to ask you, John, now you work 24/7. You've got a lot going on. You have several medical clinics, right?
Right, Next Care.
And they're around the valley. And all of a sudden, you decide to go to law school. Now you're being a brave soul. Why?
You know, I'd always wanted to go back to law school, and after doing this for so long, I thought there has got to be a better way to mediate all these disputes that the physicians and sometimes their patients find themselves in. And, you know, trying to figure that out and see if we can bring those two parties together again was kind of the impetus to do it.
Okay.
And it's a challenge.
So basically you did med school and did residency, and then all of a sudden these years later, in between your cooking fabulous pasta, you say, you know what, why not law school? So is it harder than medical school?
It's just different. I mean, it's not the memorization in medical school, but it's more of kind of taking the facts and applying them to a new set of, you know, taking the theory and applying to a new set of facts and coming up with your own conclusion. But it's been fun.
Okay. But, really fun?
But I'm old in that, boy, in that school.
Okay, do me a favor, though. Do not get argumentative. Every single lawyer who goes to law school and becomes a lawyer,
what are you talking
argumentative.
About? Who saw? I'm not argumentative.
You are too.
No, I'm not. Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
Are you getting defensive? I'm not getting defensive. Okay. Anyway, we are also going to be talking about a great area, and that is the hypochondriac.
Right.
I know a few people. I always believe in manifesting health. I am never sick, but occasionally I have a need just to kind of whine and complain.
Everybody does.
Yeah. So is it really a serious thing, or is it just people whining?
Well, actually, they think that people spend about the country spends about $20 billion a year kind of ruling out and trying to figure out what's wrong with people who probably don't have much wrong with them physically, but then mentally or emotionally they are just consumed with this thought that they're going to die or they have something wrong with them, and it's terrible because it ruins their life.
Are you saying, did you say $20 billion?
$20 billion a year, working them up, doing tests on them, convincing them that in fact there's not a lot physically wrong with them. And it's tragic because they are miserable with this.
Yeah. Well, I did think I had major heart problems. I had chest pains. I'd written out my will. It was all over.
And here you are.
It was nothing. I think I was worried about other things, or maybe it was a little gas issue. I can't remember. Anyway, we'll be talking a little bit more about that on our show. I can't believe I just said that on the air. Now, on today's show as well, because you love cooking. So we've done this in honor of you, John.
Thank you.
Because a guy who's a doctor, a law school student, and a chef. We have Chef Dan. Is it Enos?
Enos.
Enos, yes. Dan from the newly opened Capitol Grill. If you haven't been there, this place is terrific. And thanks for joining us, Dan. What are you going to be whipping up today?
Today I'm going to be doing a winter salad that we're doing on our special menu, along with a sliced sirloin, roasted mushrooms, and it's just part of our holiday menu, special occasions, anniversaries. So you should have fun. It's going to taste great.
All right. You know, Dan, you really do have the sort of like the wood interior, low lighting, which is very nice. You know, anybody who's over 40 appreciates that, and the food is delicious.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, have you been there?
I have. I've had the filet and the roasted mushrooms there, and the caramelized onions.
Isn't it wonderful?
Oh, I want to I want to work there.
Yeah, I know. Can we work there, Dan? Maybe do a little, you know, weekend gig?
Or maybe
Sure.
just eat there.
Yeah, or eat there, that's right. Well, John's got so much time on his hands, you know, Dan. He's just like so free. Anyway, okay, we'll check back with you in just a minute. Also on our show, author and educator Kathy Colby is here. She is a dynamo, and we're talking about gifted children, and you and I were discussing this.
Right.
You have 2 children.
Right.
What are their ages?
13 and 10.
Okay, I've got 2 13-year-olds, thank you God, and an 8-year-old daughter, and let me tell you, it's real interesting what is gifted and what isn't. And Kathy has a whole different spin. The answer might surprise you and hopefully help you determine whether your child has that potential. Do you think your children are gifted?
I think they're gifted just to have me as a father and tolerate me.
Oh, well, just go ahead
Oh,
and
my
kiss
God,
yourself
yeah.
and hug yourself.
No, not for that reason, just to tolerate me.
Yeah.
But no,
Oh.
I mean, I think they're bright kids, but you know, are they truly gifted? It's hard to say, and I
Yeah.
don't know even what defines that anymore. Certainly, I was never labeled as gifted, maybe by height, but that was
6'4", no less, no more. Anyway.
with the platform shoes.
I know, and I love those, especially with the disco outfit. Hey, it's Tuesday, and that also means it's makeover time. A little later, our makeover expert, Robert Quinn, will be joining us with a woman who is in the market for a new look. And women, you know what we're talking about. We sort of do like the frumpy-dumpy kind of thing. Hey, also, you want to dress up for Halloween? Are you game?
I've always wanted to be a pirate and wear the puffy sleeves. I've always wanted to be a pirate.
You might need some psychiatric counseling. I don't know.
Seinfeld, I don't want to be a pirate.
You sure it's not like a red sash fuchsia platform shoes?
Well, I've got the patch.
He's got a fever. I don't think he's feeling well. Anyway, we are going to be talking about Halloween and costumes for adults. Halloween is Friday, and I think we're going to get this guy to dress up. We have a costume show for adults you are going to love. It is courtesy of Easley's Fun Shop, which is the place, coincidentally, that I recently paid a visit to and found out what the hot costumes are in a special video piece. That's right. So we'll be talking about that as well. Do we have a video piece? No video piece. Okay, smiling for the camera. Never mind. Okay, Dr. John, coming up, you're going to give us a lesson on hypochondria. Can you also figure out my back problems?
We'll try in the break.
Okay, but don't break it. Okay, that's coming up. Also, your chance to win tickets to Ballet Arizona's presentation of Swan Lake a little later on. Stay with us. We've got a great show. Your Life A to Z. Well, our stylist, Robert Quinn, you've seen Robert on our show, John. Yeah, he is from Zoltan Salon in Scottsdale, and he's here today for our Tuesday makeover. And Robert, you have a very special guest with you today.
Sure do. Heidi, it's really an amazing story. We have a great makeover, but more importantly, we have a great story. Cheryl Jones from Wickenburg had, while pregnant, had a cardiac standstill and everybody lived well, and the baby is fine. That was in 1995, Cheryl, yeah. And that was due to a brain aneurysm. So the whole story has worked out well. Let's hope the haircut worked out good.
All right. Well, we are looking forward to seeing the new makeover. Cheryl is ready for a little oomph, you know. She's been through a lot. She has a fabulous son who's going to be on the show.
Great.
So anyway, right now, though, I'm sure we all know one. Okay, maybe one time I acted like one. Or maybe your friends or somebody else joke around that you are a hypochondriac. Well, believe it or not, for tens of thousands who suffer from true hypochondria, this is no laughing matter. And it's a huge, huge problem out there, isn't it, John?
Well, and it's tragic for these people because I think people in general kind of make fun of them. They say, oh, you know, you're just crying wolf all the time, you're a hypochondriac. But realistically, they live in this world that they always think something's wrong with them. And for them, it's every little ache they get, every chest pain or twinge in their back, they feel absolutely miserable, and they think they're going to die, and they clog up the emergency departments all over the country. $20 billion a year are suspected to be thought of these patients or spent on these patients with hypochondria.
And yet a lot of times when you aren't feeling well, whether it's emotional or mental, I think it can physically manifest itself. I think people really believe that they are having a heart attack. Seriously, a few years ago, I thought, I'm having a heart attack, that's it, my life's over. I was doing a Hail Marys, I'm not even Catholic, I was writing my will out, and, you know, I was fine. I did have to get it checked out, but I really believed there was something terribly wrong with me. Total fear.
Well, there's people I see, you know, basically almost every day who come in and they say, you know, this something is definitely wrong, I don't know what it is, but I'm not right. And so you go through umpteen hundreds of dollars worth of tests, and you come back and say, you know what, I don't know what it is, but I know it's not going to kill you. I know it's not life-threatening. Yeah. And they really don't believe it because they know internally that something's wrong with them. And actually, there's a new syndrome called cyberchondria, where it's people going to the website and typing up their symptoms and going to these websites.
Totally.
And they don't find the easy stuff. I mean, they find the, you know, I've got tertiary syphilis, I've got this, I've got that, and it's nothing ever that you ever see about, I've got kuru or beriberi, and you're like, oh, I don't even know what the hell that is anymore.
I thought that was a seasoning or a sauce.
Well, it can be in a certain. We'll ask Dan.
Is it a rare disease or is it like a lovely little glaze to put on your fillet? So they really go and start whipping it up. Why do they do that? Why do we do this as hypochondriacs?
Well,
not that I'm one, but just people who are that
way.
Well,
they think it's probably a combination of a couple of things. One is OCD, that obsessive compulsive disorder, where you're constantly, adjusting everything, or just depression, or a lot of it's manifested by depression. You're depressed about something, and all of a sudden you start internalizing absolutely everything. And you see it a lot. If you work in the emergency department at night, you see people come in who they haven't really noticed it all day, but now they're laying in bed and they have this weird twinge in their shoulder, and it starts worrying them, and then their mind starts spinning, and then they think of somebody that they knew who had it, and then they died, and then they end up in the emergency departments.
And they whip it up.
And they just freak out.
Let me ask you this. Can you tell pretty much when somebody comes into ER, boy, this one's a faker, they need attention? Because that's a lot of people say that hypochondria is a way to get attention maybe that you don't otherwise
I think in the
life.
emergency department, most emergency physicians, they always think of the worst first. This is kind of how we're all trained. If you have a headache, it's a subarachnoid bleed, it's an aneurysm, it's something that's bad.
Major,
Once you rule that out, you kind of say, you go back to them and say, okay, the good news is I haven't found much wrong with you, and the people are kind of depressed because they almost want you to find something bad with them.
Right.
So then you can alleviate them that, no, I'm not crazy, there really is something wrong. See, I told everybody.
How do you treat this? How do you really deal with this in any kind of effective way?
It's hard to treat in the emergency department, but for the primary care physicians, I think once they recognize that their patients may have this, they've done some tests, they realize that there's not a lot physically in the mind, referring them to counseling is probably the best way to do it. Now, there's some medications, exactly, break the pattern. There's some medications, Prozac is one of them they use for obsessive compulsive disorder, and that seems to work, at least partially, or in some patients who have hypochondria.
Wow. Hey, let's talk about medical myths for a minute. Some of them are funny. I call them wives' tales,
Right.
But you've got some great medical myths that we really need to realize are so not true. I mean, I can't believe the swimming one. I never swim after I have a big meal. Doctor, I wait a whole hour. Otherwise, I just totally sink to the bottom.
Yeah, I did too. I mean, growing up was like, you can't quit look, 59 minutes, like, oh, come on, for God's sakes, I want to swim. But and that's, there's some rationale behind that. When you eat food, it digests in your stomach, the blood goes to your stomach. So if you start exercising, like if you run, people say, oh, I've got a stitch in my side, my son's, oh, I've got cramps. And realistically, you just don't have enough blood flow in the muscle. And so are you going to drown if you have a little cramp in the pool? Probably not. That's a medical myth. You can actually swim more than an hour, sooner than an hour after you eat.
Yeah.
How about sugar causing diabetes? Eat too much, that's another one. Eating too much sugar as a kid does not cause diabetes.
It doesn't?
Does not cause diabetes.
What causes diabetes?
Well, two different things. One is your body gets resistant to insulin. So in other words, you have enough insulin that your body doesn't know what to do with it, or that your pancreas is damaged through maybe a viral syndrome, for example, or just genetically you are predisposed to have diabetes. It's not because you ate a lot of sugar as a kid.
Oh, gee, so that's not going to work with my children. I said you need to have vegetables.
I never ate vegetables. I hate vegetables.
What?
And that's not.
You don't like vegetables?
Corn on the cob, that's it.
You're kidding.
I'm not sure that
What's
is
your
a vegetable.
fat content?
It's too much to mention right now in the air. I'll tell you.
And he's a doctor. Oh, yeah, and he's going to be a lawyer and doesn't have a will. Uh-huh. Okay. So what's another myth?
Here's a great one. Eating sugar causes kids to be hyperactive.
Oh, I absolutely agree with that. They bounce off the walls after 4 popsicles and that little sweet tarty thing.
That might just be that they're related to you.
Who, me? I'm so mellow. I'm so type B. No.
Did a study in 1994. It was in the New England Journal of Medicine, and not that I read that much anymore, but really looked at all these kids, and they fed half of them tons of sugar, half of them no sugar. Really, no difference in their behavior patterns. Even when they flipped them, there was no difference in their behavior patterns.
Wow. So you think maybe it's just more genetic and your hardwiring?
Yeah, just more. Yeah, not that you fed them all sorts of sugar and that made them hyper.
I can't believe that. What am I going to tell my daughters so that they eat healthy foods? If they watch this show, that's it. It's over,
It's
Doc.
over.
It's over. They're now going to have
But they're
every
in school,
rationale.
so it's okay.
Well, no, 2 of them are home today.
because they're gifted.
We'll be talking about that a little later on. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Juan. I'm going to start calling him Dr. Juan. Up next, Chef Dan Enos is cooking in the kitchen. He's from the newly opened Capitol Grill. We're talking about that place. Love it. And he's got some scrumptious holiday cooking ideas. And we're going to go to the kitchen and cook away, cut away, and enjoy when we come back.